Om. गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णु गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः। हरि ओम। We are looking at why Atma cannot be experienced. In the verse 46, 13 it was told, Swayameva vidyate nanubhavyata nyatru jnanantarabhavad Agneyo natavat tvasattaya. We are in Panchadashi, chapter 3, Panchakosha Vivek. So, the self being of the nature of experience, there is no possibility of its becoming an object of experience. There being absence of difference between the knower and known, it is unknowable not because it is absent, and therefore it is unknown. So what are they talking about that it is unknowable? It is unknowable through the mind, it is unknowable through the thoughts, but it is our experience that we are, isn't it? We have never felt our own absence. So that principle, that essence of our personality, because of which all these instruments are functioning, that is the unknowable principle. So we cannot, because it is unknowable does not mean there is nothing there. Because it is a subjective experience. You don't, as we said last week, you don't need to think that you are. Even if you don't think you are. Therefore, this Atma Tattva is of the nature of experience. Now, how the Atma Tattva cannot be known as an object of experience is illustrated by some examples. So, first thing, it is of the nature of experience. Second point, that this Atma, this self, cannot become an object of experience. How it is so? It is told, Madhuryadi Swabhavanam Madhuryadi Swabhavanam Anyatra Swagunarpinam Swasmin Tadarpanapeksha No na chastyanya darpakam. The sweet objects such as sugar, etc., lending their essential sweetness to other objects such as sweetmeats, do not depend for sweetness on other objects. And there is no other object other than sugar that has inherent sweetness. So what does it mean? That the nature of sugar is to be sweet. It can lend its sweetness to other dishes, but the sweetness that the sugar is cannot objectively experience its own sweetness, isn't it? So if it is added to some dish or not added to some dish, does it matter to the sugar? Does sugar become sugarless because it is not added to sweetmeats? No. So the sweetness in the sugar is self-existing. It is not dependent on something else. You cannot say because of something else the sugar, In the sweet meat, the sweetness is because of the sugar. But in the sugar itself, it has not come from outside. That is its nature. Similarly, this Atman also, this self, it lends itself to body, breath, mind, intellect, etc., etc. See? And therefore they become alive. It is that fellow, this Atma, in whose light you are able to see the body, breath, mind, intellect. But there is no object, or there is nothing else other than the Atma, the self, which can come to know the self cannot. Just like there is nothing else other than sugar which can come to know sugar. In the same way, Atma Tattva, which is of the nature of Anubhav or experience, does not depend on other objects for experience. Doesn't depend on other. If there is no object for experience, what will happen to the Atma? If Atma cannot be experienced objectively, that means I am experiencing you objectively right now. I am experiencing the camera objectively. I am experiencing this book objectively. I am experiencing the body objectively. But I cannot experience Atma objectively. I cannot see, hear, touch, feel, taste, think, ideate, conceptualize. No, I can't. Because all that I do is only at the level of mind, by way of thoughts. And I know that these thoughts are arising in my mind, isn't it? So if it is not an object of experience, then is there anything or is there nothing? A lot of people will conclude that there is nothing there. But anyad arpakam na asti. The sugar does not depend on other objects for receiving the sweetness. Its sweetness is beyond cause and effect. So also the Atma Tattva beyond the realm of cause and effect, and therefore beyond the realm of intellectual understanding. And when we use the word, it is unknowable, cannot be known. It is, we are addressing the intellect. Continuing. Arpakantara rahityepi astyesham tat swabhavata ma bhut tatha anubhavyatvam bodhatma tu nahiyate. Although there is no other object for lending sweetness of sugar, etc., they have this sweetness inherently. Similarly, the Atma may not become an object of experience. It will not lose its essential nature called knowledge or experience. What is the Atma? It is the experience itself. What is sugar? It is the sweetness itself. Nothing can be added to the sugar to make it more sweet. Nothing can be subtracted from the sugar to make it less sweet. It is complete. As an analogy, it is complete. It can be added or subtracted to other objects, isn't it? So it can become the cause of other sweetmeats, but it itself can never become an effect. It can never become an effect. From that example point of view. Similarly, this Atma Tattva, this self, it is the cause of everything. Without it, body, breath, mind, intellect, world, nothing can exist. But it cannot become the effect, it cannot become the object of knowledge. It has got no other cause. There is no other means by which you can come to know the self or the Atma. Therefore, when all the five koshas, tatha anubhavyatvam ma bhut, In the same way, the Atma does not fall in the purview of an experience. Therefore, when all the five koshas, sheaths, are rejected, and when there is nothing to experience, the Atma will continue to be. When there is nothing to be rejected, where do we go into? When there is nothing else to be rejected, what happens to us normally? We go to sleep. We go to sleep. Or we have this idea that we are in the void. I am experiencing void. I am experiencing nothing. They don't realize the stupidity of that statement. That how can you experience nothing? See? Let there be no possibility of experience for the Atma. Nothing will happen to it. This Bodhatma, which is of the nature of consciousness, pure knowledge, is never denied. So, whether the body, breath, mind, intellect world is there or not there, nothing will happen to the self, the Atma. Just like whether there are sweetmeats or no sweetmeats, sugar is self-existing. It does not matter to sugar if it is added. If it is added to something, sugar is not enhanced. That to which it is added, that gains the sweetness, isn't it? Whether it is 1 grain of sugar or it is 1 ton of sugar, the sweetness is exactly the same in 1 grain of sugar as well as 1 ton of sugar, isn't it? The quality does not diminish, nor does it become more. To support this point, the Upanishads are cited in the next 3 shlokas. Swayam Jyotir Bhavatyeshaha Purosmad Bhasate Khilat Tameva Bhantamanveti Tad bhasa bhasyate jagat. This Atma is self-illumined. Even before the creation of these 5 sheaths, it is self-effulgent. After his light comes into the world of existence, by his light of consciousness, the world is illumined. So what does it say? That Asmat Akilat Purah Bhasate. Before the manifestation of all the 5 koshas, the self is self-illumined. Before the appearance of all the sweetmeats, the sugar was. Before the appearance of all the waves, water was. Before the appearance of all the ornaments, gold was. Before the appearance of all the pots, the mud was. Similarly, before the appearance of the 5 sheaths and the world, the self was. And then Tameva Bhantam Anveti Tad Bhasa Jagat Bhasayate. The world of name and forms is illumined by the Atma Tattva alone, and by the light of this consciousness, that which is inert and which is of the nature of constant change, that is, the world is illumined. It is because of this Atma that we are able to know the body, we are able to know the world, we are able to know the space, air, fire, water, earth, we are able to know that the body, breath, mind, intellect, desires, concepts, ideas, emotions. See? Can thoughts exist independent of the self? Can they? Can a dead body have thoughts? No, isn't it? So in whose presence do the thoughts appear and disappear? It is the Atma. See? In whose presence the day and night appear and disappear? It is the sun. Sun is the constant principle. Similarly, this Atma is the constant principle. The sun, the day and the night, even if they take birth after birth after birth every day for infinite period of time, still they can never come to know the sun. Isn't it? They cannot come to know the sun. They cannot come to know the sun. Similarly, as much as you may try, through the instruments, you can never come to know the self. Understand, instruments are functioning because of the self. Because the self is there. Therefore the thought is there. The self is there. Therefore the breath is there. Because the self is there. Therefore the actions at the level of body and senses are there. It's not the other way around. Not I think, therefore I am. No. I am, therefore I think. Some stupid psychiatrist or psychologist, they have come to this conclusion. I think, therefore I am. So, conclusion is, everything that is changing in this life, in the world, that is the outside world and the inner world and the five sheaths and the breath, etc., etc., everything that you can cognize as changing, understand it is illumined by the self. So now, is this illumination taking somewhere outside of you? Is the source of illumination outside of you? No. So think in this way and come to yourself. Then who is illuminating? I am illuminating. Make a genuine search for who is this illuminator? Who is illuminating the world outside? And you don't have to keep imagining. The moment you close your eyes and become introverted, the first thought that comes, start inquiring from that thought. Don't try to imagine. You have the information, and that information in the books is only telling you who is illuminating the object of experience. See? So if this is the thought that is coming to me, that who am I? Who is illuminating the thought, who am I? See? The moment you ask that question, you will fall back to yourself. When I say you will fall back to yourself, what will happen is, the moment you ask that question, the mind will stop. How long? As long as you have trained it to be. See?
Swamiji, is it the Atma which experience the five sheets?
Of course. Atma does not experience anything. Yeah. Does sun experience day and night? No. Your question is like that.
Yeah, that's right. So,
does sun experience day and night? Answer me.
No.
Why?
It is always give light.
It is always of the nature of light. From its point of view, there is nothing called day and night. Isn't it?
Yeah.
Exactly the same way. From the self point of view, there is nothing called the world, there is nothing called body, breath, mind, intellect.
Okay.
But now, that is from the Atma point of view, absolute standpoint. Now we come back into the mind.
That's right, yeah.
So now, we are thinking, we are considering ourselves to be an individual. So when we take ourselves to be the individual, and if we want to get to the Atma, then we have to put that X factor, that there must be someone. There is someone within me, because of whom I am able to see this body, because of whom I am able to breathe, because of whom I am able to think, because of whom I am able to feel. Who is that? Who is that? That is me. But which me? What me? Is it the body me? Is it the breathing me? Is it the thinking me? Is it the feeling me? Is it the zero me? Which cannot be known? Which me? So don't remain in the intellect all the time. The idea is to go beyond. This is all intellectual, but all that is propelling us, the thinking is presented to us in such a way by the great teacher that we go beyond thinking, because this subject cannot be thought. It is not, you will not come to any conclusion. See?
So, chapter 12 say all these five sheets are experienced. So who experienced it?
Find out. When you will find out, you will find it is me.
Who is that me?
That's what you have to find out. That is the journey.
Is it not the mind who is experiencing all these ones? No.
No. Who is experiencing the mind? Do you, while you are asking me the questions, do you know that you are asking the questions? Right now, do you know
Yeah.
that just now you asked a question?
Yeah.
Or did it happen without you knowing?
No.
So who is the knower? Find out. Find out who is the knower. In whose presence this question appeared in the mind and then disappeared. The doubts are of the mind. The confusions are of the mind. The questions are of the mind. The solutions are of the mind. Who is knowing? Who is illuminating all these questions, all these confusions, all these answers? Who is illuminating? You're getting what I'm saying?
Illuminating is Atma, but is it knowing? Is it not the mind the body consciousness comes from the mind? Mind only recognize the body consciousness. That consciousness comes from where? That
Yes, mind identifies with the body, but can mind exist independently? Can a dead body have a mind? Still here it is okay. That dead body cannot have a mind. So if you are you call yourself a living person right now, and the mind is functioning, then because of whom is this mind functioning? What is the cause of this mind? Because how do you know there is a mind? How do you know there is a mind?
thoughts.
Because you have thoughts, isn't it? Are you knowing that thoughts are coming and going? Yes. Who is knowing these thoughts are coming and going? Who is knowing? Come to that person. Come to that person. Come to. You will say, I am knowing that that thoughts are coming. Who is this I? Find out. And therefore, see, we say sun's light, isn't it? We say sun's light. Normal language. That, oh, it is so beautiful when I go out of the house, the sunlight this morning. Oh, I could bask in the sunlight. You go in the space, is there any sunlight? No. Then how do you determine that there is something called sunlight? How do you determine?
Reflection of
Therefore, sun can express as sunlight, which is useful to us only through a reflecting medium. Only through a reflecting medium. Otherwise, it is not possible to know. Exactly the same way. The self, to know the self, suppose there was no sunlight, would you would you be saying Om Bhurvasva Tatsaviturvarenyam? You will not be saying. Then the plants won't be growing. Nothing will happen on this planet. So exactly the same way, the self is there. How do we know the self? because of the reflecting medium. What is the reflecting medium? The body, all the sheaths. Body, breath, mind, intellect, Annamaya Kosh, Pranamaya Kosh, Manomaya Kosh, Vijnanamaya Kosh and Anandamaya Kosh. How do we know that these are expressing? That the self is expressing or self is supporting these? Because certain aspects of that self express through these, isn't it? In Anandamaya Kosh, the bliss aspect is expressing. In the intellect, the conscious aspect is expressing. In the mind, little bit less than the intellect. Or in the intellect, the reflected consciousness is expressing. In the mind, the knowledge, a grosser knowledge is expressing. In the breath, the dynamism of that self is expressing. And that same Atma, the self, is expressing as existence at the level of body. So this is how we come to know that the self is. By looking at the body, we cannot come to know. You look at a dead body also. So what is the difference between that dead body and this body? Yes, that dead body also was existing. This body is also existing. But in that body, life is not existing. In this body, life is expressing. See? So, the Atma, the self, is borrowing itself to the five sheaths. From its point, there is nothing called five sheaths. From the self point of view, there is nothing called five sheaths. From the sun's point of view, there is nothing called day and night. From the sun's point of view, there is nothing called seasons. From the sun's point of view, there is nothing called north equinox, south equinox, nothing like that.
Atma is in that body as well, isn't it?
Pardon me?
Atma is in that body as
Atma
well.
is everywhere. But is it able to express itself? No. That's what we are talking about. Because in our daily language we say that person is dead. What does death mean? That the self is not able to express. Why? That equipment is not a fit instrument for the self to express. So if my glasses become foggy, then the glass is there, but my eyes will not be able to see. So is there anything wrong with my eyes? No. Then what will we say? Oh, the glass has become ineffective for providing me good vision. Then what do? I take it, I rub it with a flannel cloth, and again the vision is restored, isn't it? Exactly the same way. So what did I do? I removed all the dirt. Meditation, initial stages, meditation is to remove all the dirt from the mind, which is not allowing the self to express as it is. As it is. What we are seeing is the corrupted idea of the self. Okay. So just like you can't see your eyes, but you believe that you have the eyes, only when you go to a reflected medium called mirror, you are able to see that you have the eyes, isn't it? You have never seen, you have a mind, but mind has never seen itself. But how do you know there is a mind? Because you come to know that you can feel the various emotions, the various thoughts, the various ideas, the various concepts. So you know that you have a mind and an intellect. If a person is not able to appreciate the emotions, he becomes whimsical, If he is not able to appreciate, if the emotions are not in his control, he becomes whimsical. If the thoughts and concepts and ideas are not under his control, he becomes arrogant. See? So because the thoughts are there, therefore we know there is intelligence. Because the emotions are there, therefore we know there is a mind. Isn't it? So the mirror is the emotions, the mind. The mirror is the intellect. Therefore we know that there must be someone who is illuminating all the concepts and ideas. There must be someone who is illuminating the emotions in the mind. Because if it is not there, how will you come to know the emotions? It is not possible. Very, very fine, very, very subtle.
So different qualities of the Atma is expressed to different sheaths.
Not different qualities of Atma.
Okay. Oh, the nature of
Not, Atma is the same all the time.
express.
My eye is same all the time. If I wear dark glasses, I'll see a dark world. If I see blue glasses, I'll see a blue world. If I wear yellow glasses, I'll see a yellow world. If I wear white glasses, I'll see a white world. If I wear clear glasses, I'll see the world as it is, isn't it? So Atma is as it is. What is the quality of the reflecting medium through which it is expressing? So is your mind and intellect, is it clear or is it colored? So if it is sattvic, it is white. If it is rajasic mind and intellect, it is red. If it is tamasic, then it is black. Then that will be your experience of this, isn't it? If it is clear, no colors, no issues, that means the mind is free of all thoughts, then the self that is there, it will reflect as it is. Not that you will see anything, but its expression will be the bliss of experience, the conscious bliss of experience through the body, breath, mind, intellect. At that moment, and this is only practiced through witnessing, and at that moment, the difference between the reflector and the reflected vanishes. So Atma is the reflector, isn't it? And the mind is the reflecting medium. So the difference between the two, the knower and known, the observer and the observed, the witness and the witnessed, all this difference, the subject and the object, this difference vanishes. This much we can explain. But it will gel if you contemplate on it. It will gel if you take this information not as an intellectual exercise right now, if you take it as a subjective journey. That what we are talking about is not an Atma called a thought in your mind. Mind may be using the word Atma, but that Atma is reminding you, is invoking the essential self. So the moment I say Louise, immediately she recognizes herself. There may be so many Louises, isn't it? So the moment we say Atma, we must recognize that it is it is talking about me essentially, not about a concept in my mind. Then it will become subjective. See? Some more quotations from the Upanishad are given. Ye nedam janate sarvam, nedam janate sarvam, tat kenanyena janatam, tat kenanyena janatam, vijñātāram kena vidyāt, vijñātāram kena vidyāt, shaktam vedyetu sadhanam, shaktam vedyetu sadhanam. He says the witnessing self by whom the whole world is known, to that witness what other thing can know? That sugar which lends itself to all the sweetmeats. Which sweetmeat can ever come to know what sugar is? Cannot. Which ornament can come to know what gold is? It cannot. Which wave can come to know what water is? It cannot. Until it does not give up its individuality. See? It cannot come to know it objectively. So when we take these examples, we stand here in the or we sit here in the class and we are contemplating, we can see the foolishness of the exercise of a wave trying to find that it is water. Isn't it? We can see the foolishness of the ornament to do the sadhana so that one day it can come to know it is gold. It seems trivial, not even trivial, it is foolish. We can see in these examples, it is already gold, it is already water, it is already the mud. See? Then what do these fellows have to do in order to know? Nothing, just be. Now apply it to yourself. So, a realized master, a great master tells you, Arey, you are already that. He says, Tattvamasi, you are already that. You are that. And you say, no, I have to do something. Do you mean all the Mahatmas and all the other sannyasis that are born in the past and are doing their practices in the present, they are all foolish? Those Mahatmas who have lived for ages, living in caves, teaching and chanting the name of the Lord and this and that and controlling their breath and doing pranayam and doing kriya yoga, etc., etc., different paths. Are they all mad? Are they mad? Are they mad or not? Nobody wants to commit.
Some people might say so.
Yes, they are mad. Because they are trying to find who they already are. That ornament is trying to find the gold, but it is already the gold. So you are trying to find the Atma, trying to be the Atma which you already are. So that which you already are, how can you again become that? Be that? See? That which you already are, how can you be that again? That's why these examples are given. There's no one example which can gel it together. But we have to take different ways of different approaches so that the mind, the intellect does not say, "Acha, this is the way," then it gets stuck on that. The moment it says this is the way, that it creates a trap for itself. The witnessing self by whom the whole world is known, to that witness what other thing can know, by what the knower is known, the means of knowledge are functional in the field of objective perception. So by this consciousness, Atma, witness, Chaitanya, etc., all that falls within the purview of objects is known. What other thing can know this Sakshi or witness which is knowing everything? So even when we use the word Atma, when we use the word witness, all these are thoughts coming in our mind, isn't it? Do you know these thoughts are appearing in your mind? Do you know understanding is taking place right now? You know, isn't it? That's why you're nodding, that's why you are something, that's why you're coming back. Who knows that a knowledge is taking place? Search that fellow out. That's your essence. That's your true nature. That's the Atma Tattva. And when, as Bhagavad Gita says, Samatvam Yoga Uchyate. So, for that, first what you will have to do is stop living a life of reactions. Reactions are caused in your life because of likes and dislikes. So stop living a life of always, in any situation, I like her, I don't like him. Don't create division within your mind. Likes and dislikes create division within your mind. The more you remain in the center, in good times and bad times, in good experiences and bad experiences, in good thoughts and bad thoughts, in good emotions and bad emotions. Don't take a position. Understand, if a good emotion has come, it has come. Keep watching, you know that it will go away. It will not remain permanently. Then a bad emotion comes, it will also go away. What's next? When in this manner you stop living a reactionary life, when a certain level of momentum, a certain degree of momentum is due to which a non-reactionary attitude of the mind is created in that mind after a certain level. Without you doing anything, all you have to do is this. Of its own accord, witnessing will happen. Witnessing will begin. You cannot create a witness. You cannot stand here and say, I am the witness. What witness? The symptom of being a witness is remaining undisturbed by time, space and objectivity. Remaining undisturbed by waker, dreamer and deep sleeper. Remaining undisturbed by praise and insult, by hunger and thirst, by comfort and discomfort, by past or future. Then you are a witness. Just to say I am a witness and living a reactionary life, immediately after that statement is made, who are you fooling? Yourself only. See? If we say that a person is very loving person, there are symptoms, isn't it? You observe that person, that person loves unconditionally, cares for other people, calls other people, is always available to help, etc., etc., etc. Looking at all that data, then you come to know that person is a loving person. If you say an intelligent person, again you say you have a certain data based upon which you are able to say, isn't it? So if you want to recognize within yourself, how do you recognize within yourself? Right now you are getting identified with the thoughts and emotions and actions. When you become the witness, you do not identify with the thoughts, desires, emotions and actions. Correct? So what is your data now? What is your data? Initial stages, you will not be witnessing for the whole day. You may access that on the seat of meditation. You bring about the environment and you fall into witnessing. Then what is its symptom? That when you come out of meditation, when you live in your daily life, you see, Arey, without my trying anything, I am undisturbed by anything, unaffected by anything. See? So in meditation also, for some moments you have been the witness, and then afterwards you come back into the mind, or you're watching that thoughts are coming, emotions are coming, ideas are coming, fears are coming, past guilts are coming, future expectations are coming, anxieties are coming. But you are merely the watcher. You are not affected by them. The more you practice this on the seat of meditation, directly proportional to that will be its expression in your daily life. It's not that out there in the world you have to practice this. You have to practice it within you. The outer world is an expression of your mind. Isn't it? Mind grossified is the world. So come back, come back. And this is how you come to know. So here, when it says that that by this, so how can one know the knower? Because the knower alone is the knower. Now it is not. So what do we do on the seat of meditation? That everything that we can experience objectively, we discard it. We discard it. Everything. The moment you come, you are fixing your body this way, that way. I am not the body. And slowly, slowly go inside. See? Keep discarding whatever is your. Don't try to create thinking process. Even if you don't want to think, the mind will come up with some thought. Allow it to. And when it comes, what's next? What's next? This is an objective experience. What's next? This is also an objective experience. What's next? And this way, keep coming, keep cutting your umbilical cord with the body, then with the breath, then with the mind, then with the intellect. Cutting umbilical cord means what?
Turn off the life force.
And what is the life force? The attention that you give, isn't it? So if I give attention to the body, then comfort, discomfort will be paramount in my mind, isn't it? Then I want, cutting umbilical cord means the way the body is, let it be. Who cares? Cutting the umbilical cord with the breath is, you are not affected by hunger and thirst. Cutting the umbilical cord with the mind is, you are not affected by the eruption of likes and dislikes, which express as joys and sorrows. Cutting the umbilical cord with the intellect is, You are unaffected by praise and insult, knowledge and ignorance, merit and demerit, merit and sin. Those ideas then are not able to entrap you. So, systematically, so find out where you are. If body is disturbing you and you want to work with the mind, it will not be possible. If I am sitting here and I got a pain in my ankle, in my knee, and it is continuously demanding attention, I will not be able to sit for meditation, but then my meditation will be on the knee, isn't it? So in this way, systematically, step by step, if you want to do it that way. Otherwise, come straight. Who is the observer? I want to be the observer. When we do meditation, we relax the body. What is our instruction at the end of the relaxation of the body? Shift the attention from the body to the observer of the body. When we relax the breath, shift the attention from the breath to the observer of the breath. Then we chant Om in the mind, shift the attention from the presence and absence of the Om to the one who's witnessing that the Om, the Om and the absence of the Om. So our goal is not the body, our goal is not the breath, our goal is not the mind. So we train our mind to again and again fall back to the source. So when we fall back from the body to the source, little bit witnessing is taking place. But so if gross body, subtle body and causal body is there and you are undisturbed because of the gross body, that means 1/3 of the journey has been from relative plane of understanding. You have invoked 1/3 of the capacity of witnessing, isn't it? So what was disturbing, suppose I got this dark glasses, if I clean only 1/3 of it, then I will have clear vision in the 1/3, but the 2/3 is still giving me dark vision, isn't it? It's making me see the world upside down. But 1/3 I am seeing clearly. So if we are undisturbed because of the gross body, 1/3 of our potential of witnessing, if I may use that word, is expressing. And as we go further, eventually 100%. Why this sequence? Can witness be 10%, 20%, 50%, 100%? No, it cannot be. Either it is or it is not. But to make the mind understand, to make the mind motivated, to make the mind begin, we use this type of language. Knowing fully well that the witness is ever existing, ever conscious, it has never become anything but the witness. Sadhanam tu vedye shatkam. Shaktam. The mind can function only in the objective experience. Only where there is duality, the mind can function. Only where there is name and form, the mind can function. Okay. Thoughts can appear only when there is otherness. Thoughts can appear only when there is a sense of difference. Only then thoughts appear. Otherwise they cannot appear. When functioning through the instrument of knowledge, one can only know the object of knowledge and not the knower of the objects. So very important, when functioning through the instruments, when you function through body, breath, mind, intellect, when we say shift your attention from the body to the observer of the body, shift the attention from the breath to the observer of the breath, shift the attention from the thoughts to the observer of the thoughts. You can know the thoughts, you can know the breath, you can know the body as an object of knowledge. But can you make the observer as the object of knowledge? Cannot. This is in meditation we are talking. Here also you can experience it. So can you make the one who knows that this is the body at this moment, I say this is the body. Who knows? I know. Can you, just like I am seeing the body, can I see the eye? Can't. So the knower is always subjective. The known is always objective. The knower can never become the object of knowledge. Only that which has, okay, the world can be known as objectively, but the self, the knower, the witness, the Atman cannot be known objectively. And who is that Atman? You are that. Don't forget this. Thus, the impossibility of the subject ever becoming the object is established. Furthermore, the Atma is of the nature of self-existence, self-experience, self-illumination. It is therefore incorrect to say that because, unlike the Panchakoshas, the Atma cannot be the object of knowledge. It is non-existent. So some people, because the knower, the witness, the self, the Atma, because it cannot become the object of knowledge, some people may come to conclusion that it does not exist. See? Because when will this conclusion come that it is, maybe that it is non-existent? When you are only functioning through your intellect. When your journey has not been subjective, it's only in your mind, then this conclusion will come. That there is, I don't think there is anything else like that. Who is knowing that there is nothing? That is the one. The Atma is not only ever present, but it is because of the Atma that everything is known and is existent. So in this way, come to know that Atman, the self, is not it is not non-existence, it is existence. So in other words, I essentially am not non-existence, I am existence. I am aware of the two concepts called existence and non-existence, isn't it? As long as it is a thought. Saveti vedyam tat sarvam, saveti vedyam tat sarvam, nanyastasyaasti vedita, nanyastasyaasti vedita, vidita viditabhyam tat, vidita viditabhyam tat, pruthak bodhaswarupakam, bodhaswarupakam. He, the self, knows all that is objective. There is none who can know the self. The self, being of the nature of pure knowledge, is other than the categories of known or not known. Vidita, avidita, viditabhyam. So vidita is known, avidita is not known. Both are illumined by the self. So what is known? Now don't go into objects. Always go into macro. So what is known? Waking and dream is known. Deep sleep is the state of unknown, isn't it? So who knows these expressing? That one is the Atman. Do you know that sleep came and went every day? Yes. Do you know dream came and went? Yes. Do you know the waking comes and goes? Yes. Who knows that all three are coming and going? That is the Atman. So is that someone outside of you? Is that someone other than you? Not outside. Is that someone other than you? No, it is me only. I can't see. I feel that I am the waker, dreamer and deep sleeper, but I also see that I know that I am a waker, I know that I am a dreamer, and I know that I am a deep sleeper. I know that I am a man, but I also know that I am a brother, I am a son, I am a teacher, I am a friend, etc., etc. Get the clarity. Which one you really are? Are you the waker? Or the dreamer or the deep sleeper? Or are you the one who knows these three? Become clear. Are you the son? Are you the brother? Are you the teacher? Or are you the one who is illuminating these three roles? These three roles, all the problems are for these three roles, isn't it? But for the one without whom these three roles cannot express, he is unconcerned, he is content. Whether these three roles are there or not there. Today I am a husband, tomorrow I may not be a husband. Self is not disturbed. Today I am an employee, tomorrow I am not an employee. The self is not disturbed, it is illuminating. But identification with that role becomes the problem. But who is illuminating these three? So in this way, saveti vedyam tat sarvam nanyas tasyasti vedita vidita avidita bhyam tat pratak bodhya swarupakam. It is whatever is known and unknown. Pratak bodha swarupakam is other than your essence. It is other than your swarup. It is other than your core. It is other than the Atman. And in this way, whatever is known and unknown is illumined by the self. When we use the word self and not self, that is also two ideas given in the mind, isn't it? Just two concepts. And what is that not self? That not self is ignorance. Who knows that the thought called Atma, the self, came and went? And then who knows in whose light the thought of Anatma or ignorance or not self came and went? Because in the end, Atma is only as long as we are using the word Atma, or we are thinking of the word Atma or the self, it is just a word. But even while making the use of these words, we know that these words are coming and going in our mind, isn't it? The thoughts are coming and going in our mind. Who is that one? Don't ask anymore, just be that one. If you keep thinking like this again and again, don't just once a day. You got 2 minutes, take one thought and just sit with it. Self is other than the known and unknown. Don't come to any conclusion. Allow it to reveal itself. The self is other than the manifest and unmanifest. Sit with it. Self is other than the body, breath, mind, intellect. Sit with it. Self is illuminating the body, breath, mind, intellect. Sit with it. From the sun's point of view, there is no day and night. Day and night cannot express without the sun. Knowledge and ignorance, from the self point of view, there is no knowledge and ignorance. But knowledge and ignorance in the mind cannot express without the self. Parallels? Oh, so I am that which is other than knowledge and ignorance. Yahoo, I just came to know. Oh, you came to know? You are other than what you just know. Don't come to any conclusion in the mind. Through the thoughts, you cannot know the self. In spite of this clear statement, the student can still insist, unless I experience Atma, the self, I cannot believe that it exists. To such a student, the teacher gives a reply in a somewhat sarcastic vein. What does he say? He says, Bodhe pyanubhavo yasya, pyanubhavo yasya, न कथंचन जायते न कथंचन जायते तम कथम बोधयेत् शास्त्रम कथम बोधयेत् शास्त्रम लोष्टम नरसमाकृतिम. He who, although conscious of his being, yet is unable to experience his being conscious, to such a dull-witted mud doll, to a dull-witted one, how can the scriptures instruct? So the conundrum is, as long as you keep thinking of the self objectively, no amount of studies of scriptures is going to benefit. Unless every word, every concept, every idea, every logic, every inference, every means that the scriptures employ. And why are they employing it? To establish the presence of that which is self-established. Important. So unless we don't take the whole thing subjectively, till then impact will not be made. Till then it will not click. Till then you will not glide into it. So a lot of people understand for some time, but afterwards it just as if, like when you go down on the beach in the dry sand, you lift the sand, you feel you have lifted quite a bit of it in your hand. But by the time you bring it to your eyes to see it, all of it has escaped from your hand, isn't it? Contemplating on the self objectively is like that. All the thoughts, all the knowledge, all the concepts, all the scriptures are like that grain of sand. You can collect as much as you want, but eventually it will slip through. It will slip through. You have to subjectively take it. So, question is, why are you here? Why are you here? To know the truth that you are, or to be the truth that you are? Some people want to know, some people want to become, because they think, first I must know, then that truth which I am not, I will become that truth. Here scriptures are telling you are that which you are seeking already. The wave is seeking water, but is the wave already not the water? It is. When you take it subjectively, it is self-evident. It doesn't need any other source of knowledge. It knows by itself. You know by itself that you exist. Nevertheless, the doubting student does not give up his doubt. I have understood everything that you say, but I still cannot comprehend this Atma. This is us. I have understood everything that you are saying, but I still can't. It is not clicking. It is not clicking. So, to that, the teacher is answering the doubt of the student through an example. जिह्वा मेस्ति न वेत् युक्तिः जिह्वा मेस्ति न वेत् युक्तिः लज्जायै केवलं यथा न बुध्यते मया बोधो बोधव्य इति तादृशी. A statement like, do I have a tongue or not, is in reality a matter of shame. Similarly, I do not experience my being consciousness, therefore I must experience consciousness. Such statements are of the same category. You have never seen your eyes by your eyes, but don't you know that there is an eye? Have you seen with the eyes their form? You've seen a reflection which is opposite in a mirror. But without the eyes seeing themselves, don't you know that there is left eye and the right eye? Have you ever seen something called mind? But don't you believe that there is a mind? Have you ever seen something called thoughts? But don't you believe that the thoughts and emotions are coming and going? When all this you can accept, have you ever seen space? But you accept that there is something called space. Then why are you making it difficult? So you know, you have a habit to accept that which you have not experienced yet. Why can't you accept that consciousness is? And this is not that which is not. It is ever present with you, as you. And you are trying to search for it. Similarly, I do not experience my being consciousness, therefore I must experience consciousness. Such statements are of the same category. If the ornament is saying, I do not experience me being gold, I must experience gold. It is, who can help that ornament? Can anyone help that ornament? No amount of scriptures will help that ornament. No amount of gurus, come beta, I will grace you, I'll give you, raise your kundalini, I'll give you, initiate you into Kriya Yoga, I'll initiate you into Bhakti Yoga, I'll initiate you into Gyan Yoga. But as long as his attention is that I must experience gold, no amount of paths can ever help him. If his search is objective in nature, isn't it? Same is our situation. accept that you are the consciousness. Because you are alive. You are living. The life force is expressing through you right now and you've got no doubt about it. Similarly, the statement that I do not know that I am conscious is foolish, meaningless. For unless one is conscious, one will not have this doubt. Therefore, the statement that I must realize that I exist, that I am conscious, and I must do sadhana to realize this nature of myself, that I am this Atma Tattva, is equally shameful. So even the idea that we must do something in order to realize. In Vedanta, we are not. It can happen immediate. What is the premise of Vedanta? What is the premise? You are already that which you are seeking, isn't it? You are already the self that you are seeking. That is Vedanta. Vedanta means where Veda, words, the scriptures, anta, end. So where the words end, there you are. Tathastu. Tathastu. Absolutely. Tathastu. Tathastu means so be it. Because it's such a powerful statement. Vedanta is equal to the end of all words. When words are no longer there, how will you come to know that because of which the words were expressing? When words have vanished, that because of which the words were expressing is still expressing, isn't it? That because of which you could see the clouds is the sun. But the sun is covered. You don't know, Arey, what is that because of which I want to see the sun, I want to see the sun, I want to see the sun. Through the clouds you can never see the sun. Because of the clouds you can never see the sun. By making clouds as the means you can never see the sun. But when the clouds vanish, when the thought clouds vanish, did you create the sun or the sun revealed? The sun revealed. The self reveals. Before there was light, but it was diffused light. It was not directly from the sun. That diffused light is the light of reflected consciousness, is the light of the ego. But when the thoughts are removed, then the life is unobstructed. Then one becomes absolutely without words, comes to know that Satchitanand Swarup is me alone. We are using these words, but at that time, without words, this experienceless experience takes place. So the teacher is saying that recognize, it is just like to say, the example was that of the tongue. Do I have a tongue or not? As foolish that statement is, equally foolish statement is, am I consciousness or not? Where is this I? It's a foolish question. Your life. You are alive. It's throbbing out of you. Then what is the purpose of knowledge? How systematically the teachers have presented the thoughts. Then what is the purpose of knowledge? Yasmin yasminnasti loke yasminnasti loke bodhastattadupekshane bodhastattadupekshane yad bodhamatram tad brahmeti bodhamatram tad brahmeti evam dhirya एवं धीर ब्रह्म निश्चयः एवं धीर ब्रह्म निश्चयः. From the objective knowledge, when the object of knowledge is rejected, whatever pure knowledge is left, that is Brahman. This is called the vision of Brahman. So lokesmin loke yasmin bodha asti tat tat upekshane. From every object of knowledge and every experience, from the objective knowledge, reject the object of knowledge, then the pure knowledge, which is not the knowledge of something, but knowledge itself. That is what is called Brahman. So when we are sitting in a quiet moment of our life, on a daily basis, on a seat of meditation, keep whatever is objective in nature. Don't give it. Rejection means, letting go means, do not give it value or importance. Do not give it importance. Do not give it attention. Oh, it is, I'm seeing it. What's next? This is also. Who is seeing? If again a thought comes, drop it. But who is seeing this thought? I am. I just said I am. Again, drop that I am also. Who came to know I am? I am. Again, drop I am. Eventually there will be cessation of thoughts. Iti evam dhi brahma nishchayaha. When all thoughts initially, in the previous loke yasmin bodha, when everything is rejected, what is left behind is the self, the Atman or the Brahman. To get established in this knowledge is called Brahmanubhuti. Brahmanubhuti, experience of Brahman. Whatever be the object of knowledge or experience in the three states of consciousness, the consciousness is reflected, pratibodha viditam matam. And in and through every modification of the mind, the consciousness is reflected. The object is to be rejected, but the knower of but not the knower of the object. So what is to be rejected? The object of knowledge has to be rejected. What is not to be rejected? The subject is not to be rejected. How is this rejection not possible? It is very subjective. Right now I am speaking, I am knowing what the thoughts are coming in my mind and coming out as speech. Every word that is coming, I am catching it. I am observing it as this trail of thoughts is coming out. So, is my attention on this trail of thought? Or is my attention on the one who is observing this trail of thought coming and going? So, I can see that I don't have to reject anything. Why? Every thought comes and rejects itself. Every breath comes and rejects itself. Dies its own death, isn't it? So every action is happening and dying its own death. Every breath is happening and dying its own death. Every thought is coming and dying its own death. Every emotion is coming and dying its own death. I am watching. So I see that everything is coming and going, but I have remained constant. In my presence, the actions at the level of body, actions at the level of breath, actions at the level of the mind happened and unhappened, isn't it? Don't get caught up. Oh no, why that? Drop it. Don't give it value. Just be. Just be. Just be. In this way, the abhyasa, that is practice, is to be done by withdrawing attention from the objects and experience of the outer world and focusing it inwards on the pure consciousness, on the life that is permeating through each and every cell of the body. Thus, when the object of knowledge is dropped, what remains is the pure knowledge. When the last object of knowledge, what would be the last object of knowledge? Whatever it may be. It may be the thought there is nothing. It may be I am. It may be I am illuminating the nothing. It may be that I am illuminating the nothing and everything. Whatever it could be, you don't come to any concluded decisions. Because what mind is going to throw is not only what you have studied. Oh, it could be from... it's very creative. It's very creative. In the objective manifestation of knower and the known, this pure knowledge I am, in this there is neither tension nor effort. Thinking is an effort. In meditation, if we are trying to become silent, if we are trying to become, it is effort. Afterwards you will give it up. Man, that was very difficult. If you are trying to chant the name of the Lord, it becomes difficult. If you glide into it, then it is effortless. So just be the essence, be the self, be the pure knowledge which is independent of all that which comes and goes. Recognize that as your true essential nature. This is the Brahmanubhuti. When we come to this pure knowledge, it is the knowledge of the self alone. In this manner, the teacher is answering the student's inquisitiveness, answering the student's doubt. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Just sit quietly for 2 minutes.